terms of the way that it's going to work tonight, first and foremost, thank you very much for attending what is now our fourth workshop. It's actually down, it should have been the fifth one. But in terms of where we're at now with the previous workshops that we've delivered, we think that this one would be a better fit for tonight in terms of we've worked on identifying a problem, coming up with a solution, so to define the sign of a session, and then from that now we're looking to go into our game day and how we would deliver our pre-match team talk and also our half-time team talk, based on the fact that we're in the game training phase. So again, we've worked in skill acquisition and then we've worked a few sessions on the game training, and we've gone to and fro with regards to the content and the delivery of this particular workshop, because it's very, very easy for lines to become crossed in terms of slipping into the performance phase when it's still the game training phase and where we're at. So it's basically the way that it's going to be set up is it's going to be scenario based. So the flow of tonight's workshop will go as follows. We have the formation set up already, so there'll be two teams, and then what we'll do is we'll actually divide you down the middle into Team A and Team B. These are your technical areas here. What will happen is that they're going to play for 15 minutes. 15 minutes playing time, and you would take that as being the Thursday night session training game at the end. So what we'll actually do is we'll actually give you two scenarios, whether you're on one scenario for each team, Team A and Team B. You'll need to make a note of that scenario down, so make sure that you write that down so at least one of you within your technical group has that scenario. So what you're looking for in the first 15 minutes is to see whether that scenario actually comes up. Then what will happen is we'll actually break and we'll give you around about 10 minutes to get into your technical team, and working with this particular scenario, that's going to be the basis of your pre-match team talk. So somebody from in your group is going to be the head coach and the assistant coach. What we'll then do is we'll actually go into the changing room. So I've already set the changing rooms up for Team A and Team B. Everything's in there in terms of tactics boards, marker pens, etc., etc. And there's also some notes on the wall in terms of your actual, the team model, the 5 Ws and the process that we've already gone through with the previous workshops that we've delivered. So any of the resources that you might not have to hand, you will find in the changing rooms as well. Make no mistake, this isn't an opportunity for us to see how good or how bad you are. It's an opportunity for us to share ideas in terms of what you might do on match day within your own club environment, or possibly what we might do in our own environment on match day in terms of the preparation during the week, the sessions that you deliver, whether you're training 3 times a week or twice a week. In this particular case, it's twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and then how you actually go into your game at the weekends with your pre-match team talk and your half-time to see whether it's actually come to life on match day, because we're not in the performance phase, it's still the game training phase. So you're not taking the game from the week before as a starting point, you're actually taking the 2 training sessions that you've delivered in the week as your starting point for your pre-match team talk. Does that make sense so far? Clear as mud? Yeah, perfect. All right. So what we'll do is like I say, we've got the 2 teams now. They're going through their warm up. What I'll do is I'll actually get them. The reason I've set it up so it makes it very easy for them just to jump into their positions. Just to give you a bit of background on these players. These are the players that are playing or looking to find a spot to play against Sydney FC on Wednesday night for their National Youth League team. So we've had these in for a week now, a week and a half. Last training session they had with us was here on Saturday morning, but that's not going to come into play with this particular scenarios that we're working with tonight. So these have been manufactured, these scenarios. So just take that into consideration as well, and then we'll split you. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll let you go, and we'll go straight down the middle. Rod, if you just want to step to that side there, and then come to this side here. Maybe how many we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 7. Just one more. Just jump into there. Doesn't matter who it is. Teammate. So you're in charge of the orange team here. Here's your technical area. Team B. There's your technical area, and the yellow team there. So they'll organise themselves into the positions. There's probably going to be an overload as well, so you'll have a couple of substitutions. It's up to you to manage those substitutions. The way it's going to work when you go in there to deliver your pre-match team talk, you need to identify in your groups now a head coach and an assistant coach, and then your technical teams. And what we'll do now is, Team B, split yourself down the middle and go into two teams. So Plathy, just move off. There you go. We go 4-4, perfect. There's one technical team for Team B. So the second technical team for Team B. You're in that area there. So you're working together now. You're working together now. So we need a head coach assistant, and we'll do exactly the same on this side as well. So split yourself down the middle. Head coach assistant, and you'll work together in these groups for the rest of the evening. Okay? Bearing in mind there's 4 groups now. One group, or every group, will get to deliver now, either the pre-match or the half-time team talk. Okay? So if you've delivered the pre-match, your group will then deliver the half-time team talk, etc., etc. They are going to be recorded. So we're going to record it, and we're going to look to then give that feedback out, hopefully, if you're happy for that to go out to you guys, just to see what we've been through this evening as well. But we can talk about that a little bit later on. So we'll get it going, because mindful of the time, and obviously giving up your evening. Okay, boys, if you're ready, have a look at the positions on the pitch. Very quickly, just divide yourselves up and go into a position that applies to you. Let's get it done nice and quick. Obviously the 2 goalkeepers, 1 down each end. If Sam goes in 1 goal, okay. You reckon? Let's get into those positions quickly. Ozzy, any danger? If we've got subs, the subs can come over to this side and just grab a bib. Sit down, chill out. All right, so just whilst you're in positions, just familiarise yourself, get yourself just going through your last few dive flicks. Now, we'll be starting in 3 minutes. 3 minutes, so just keep yourselves warm. All right, so we'll work with Team A. Like I said, you've had 2 training sessions this week. In ball possession, so when your team has the ball, the focus has been on the ability to create an overload in the midfield by getting the 2 centre-backs to travel into midfield. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for coming. All right, so I'll just go through that again. So ball possession has focused on the ability of the team to create an overload in midfield by getting a 3 of 4, that's the 2 centre-backs, to travel into midfield to create an overload. They've been working on trying to isolate their 9 and 10 and use the 3 midfield player to gain control possession in the middle third. So again, in terms of the team model, that's actually up in the changing room as well. So the team model's in the changing room for you, so you've got that resource to go back to. You happy with that in terms? And the second one is BP to BPO. So that transitional moment is now they've been working on preventing quick counters when they lose the ball, particularly in the middle third. They've encouraged better balance when in possession by getting the centre-back 3 or 4, opposite full-back to narrow off as the ball progresses into midfield. So the example would be if the build-up's on the left-hand side and you have possession, bear it in mind, you might lose it quickly. Are we in a position to stay close, tight, narrow, etc., etc.? I'll actually, once I've read out their one as well, I'll actually leave this so you can have a little look at it as well. All right? So you're not really focusing, it's not too much focusing on them. Thinking about now with this scenario, how your pre-match team talk would be structured in your technical teams, and then see if that's actually brought to life in this 15 minutes as well. So working with Team B. You've also had 2 sessions this week. BPO. They've been trying to win the ball in the opponent's defensive third in central areas. They've asked the 9 to show outside for the 7 and 11 to show inside. The midfield players try to win the ball in central areas and counter quickly. A lot of information. So again, I'll leave it. BPO to BP. They've been trying to get someone behind the opponent's back line quickly. So listen to both of you. So you listen to both of them. So listen to both of them. So you need to be prepared to deliver both, the pre-match and the half-time. So don't just pick one. Listen to both of those scenarios, depending on what team you're working with, Team A or Team B. So I'll just go through that again. BPO to BP. They've been trying to get someone behind the opponent's back line quickly when they win the ball in the final third. They've asked the team to make sure that if the first pass is played forward, it is secure. If they can't play forward, they try to pass someone on their team, either sideways or backwards. Again, I'll leave that out for you. All right, so I'll just put that down there. So if you need to write that down, feel free to do so. Okay, boys, we're just going to go for 15 minutes. So get into your start positions, ready to go. Yellow start, well done, Brownie. Off we go, play. So as they're playing now, very, very simple. Just be thinking about those scenarios that I've given out. And can you actually see it being brought to life? Once we finish the 15 minutes of play, you'll then have 10 minutes to come up with your pre-match team talk based on what you've seen here. And again, this is the Thursday night session and the training game. So it's right at the end of Thursday night, the training game, and take those two scenarios into consideration. Okay, so just as the game is going on, obviously we're hitting the 10-minute mark now, so we're just going to go for another 5 minutes. So we're starting to think about the structure of your pre-match team talk based upon those scenarios that you've actually been given. What I'll do in a couple of minutes is I'll actually give you a heads up as to whether you're going to be doing, depending on whether you're on Team A or Team B, which one will do the pre-match team talk and which one will do the half-time team talk. Okay, just call it there. Lads, just go and get yourselves a drink. Go and get your drinks. You've got 10, you're going to go 10 minutes, and then you're going into the changing rooms. Obviously, orange into one changing room, yellow's into the other. For the coaches now, the way that it's going to work is you've got that 10 minutes to get your changing room set up. So as both groups now will go in, I've given the groups who are going to do the pre-match team talk and the ones that are going to do the half-time. If you're doing the half-time team talk, you need to be making observations in terms of how they actually set the changing room up, what they actually use, the timeline that they have. The pre-match team talk can go for no longer than 10 minutes. So we've now got a 20-minute window before we come out, and we're now into match day. So that was the training session. That was Thursday night, the training game, the very last part of the session. We're now going into match day. So if you've got the pre-match team talk for either Team A or Team B, go to your changing room now. So pick your changing room, set your changing room up. As I said to you, there's resources on the wall. So the T model's on the wall. And you guys need to go with them as well to observe and to see exactly if you would do it the same way or there's things that you might add in. The whole process now, from the setup to the delivery.
Okay, let's have a great week of training, okay? So, a few scenarios that we've worked at training. Just want to go over this for our game today. Now, our 3 and 4, where's our 3 and 4? Jimmy and Jimmy Raya, Charlie, 3 and 4. Who was out there? You two. Come on, let's give it a help here.
Yeah.
3, 3 and 4.
Stands
Okay. Alright.
Yeah, just stands.
Our goal, our objective, okay, is to get our 3 or 4 in the midfield, okay, comfortable in possession. Whether you run with the ball or whether you be played in there from your 6. Okay, where's my 6? Alright, so I want my 6 sitting in, okay? I want my 6 sitting in here so they can play you. Alright? Now if they can't play you because they're 8 or 10 or their 6 is picking you up high, we can rotate one of your other players out, the 8 and 10. Where's my 8 and 10? So just have a look at that. You should be comfortable on the ball. Okay? Now, if we're going to play out, okay, objective is for the 3 and 4 to get in these spaces in here. I want to make sure, who's my 2 and 5? Charlie. Where are you? There you go. Alright, so I want you guys where? Where do I want you guys to go if you want to try to get 3 and 4 in midfield? Fantastic, great. If you don't do it, you rock on the bench. Alright? Cool. So, we've got the 6 in there, I want 3 or 4 getting forward with the ball. Okay? So I want to have a little bit more quality possession in midfield for that to happen. Alright? So with 6, where are you? Where are you? Alright, so if the case is, if you're played in, make sure we're comfortable. Can the 3 and 4 move in the midfield without the ball? Yeah? Pretty simple. Okay, so look at getting the ball at your feet in that space. So the 8 and 10, what's your rolls? Where's my 8 and 10? 8 and 10, what's your rolls if the 6 drop in? And we're trying to get the 3 and 4 in. Push on. Okay? But again, just get side on so we might be able to play through things between you guys and the 7 and 11 as well. If you want to try and play things forward and straight. Okay, so ball possession, quickly, 2 and 5 high, 3 and 4. Okay, 10-15 metres apart, and we're trying to get possession in midfield. 6, 10-15 metres from your 3 and 4. Okay, your 8 and 10. Just be aware, if we can't get out the 8 and 10, rotate with the 6. Yeah? Right, BP to BPO. Objective, okay. Here, we've got the 2, 3, 4 and 5 at the back here. When we're playing out, okay, when we're playing out and we've got the 5 comfortable on the ball out wide, okay, he's comfortable on the ball. We want to make sure we don't cop a cheap goal. Okay, so I want my 3 and 4, okay, and my 2, who's out here, and he's realised he's comfortable on the ball, I'll just tuck in a bit. Okay, so nothing can be played in between us in here. Do you understand? You can see that? Yep. Straightforward?
Yeah, yes.
Alright, so we tuck in. So we've got numbers behind the ball. Now what do you think should happen in this space in here? If they've got a 9 in there, and if they win the ball quickly in there, what can happen? What can we do? Come on quickly. Midfielders, what's the 6 normally do? He what? Sits in. Alright. Screens what?
The ball.
Alright, good job. Good job. Alright. Have we missed anything?
No. I just think, boys, play with a bit of patience.
Yep.
Trust yourselves, play with some patience. Right at the end of training the other night, got the ball, played that ball through, got the man 3 or 4 into midfield, excellent. Okay, the defence is closed down, let's have some patience. Let's just keep it a bit now. Okay? Let's find those holes when they appear rather than forcing the issue. Does that make sense? Yeah?
So the thing is as well, being in midfield as well, so you might be in these areas in here midfield, because the game's in there, or you might be in here. Okay? But you still can pick players off, even if they've got one in there, you still can get forward in here. Even if we slide up the park, you still should be able to pick yourself in the midfield in these areas in here as well. Okay? Alright? Alright, lads. Let's go. Oh my God!
So you know who I am, I'm Steve, I'm your coach, and we're in a pre-game meeting, and I've split you up into 3 areas. Basically, what we're going to concentrate on today, fellas, and I'm going to introduce the component around the BPO, and then our assistant coach is going to cover off what we are going to do in the BPO and the transition moment to BP. Okay, so fundamentally in the BPO, what we really want to do is we want to win the ball ASAP, and we want to win it essentially in that final third. I've structured this for you. So we want to win the ball down in this final third. Why would that be?
Close to goal.
Yeah, close to the goal. And so when we get in the transition moment, we take advantage of that. So a couple of things to take note of. Where's our 9 today? Fantastic. So our 9, can you show in? And 7, 11 at that same time, can you show out? What is the product of doing that, 7, 9 and 11? What are we trying to achieve there?
Limits the space.
Pardon?
Limits the space.
Yeah, okay. Now when that occurs, at the same time, I want the 6, 8 and 10 to stay high, and the 10 to stay relatively close to the 9. And with the rest, 2, 3, 4, 5, can we keep the space quite narrow on the relevant side of the field? Ultimately, the time that I want us to win the ball back is as quickly as possible, but particularly when they're 2, 3, 5, is either facing backwards or under pressure. Everybody happy with that? Yeah. Any questions? Okay, why would I want you to put the pressure on them when they're facing backwards?
Don't know you're coming.
I know you're coming. What can we do at that point?
Force them mistakes.
Okay, and who's going to do that?
Works pressing.
Yeah, and who else? I want the whole team to press when they're under pressure. Obviously the guy that's closest, but everybody else is to press forward and really squeeze them in their final third where we take advantage of it. Okay? Any questions to me about that particular part of what we're going to do next? Cool. I'll hand over to the assistant coach.
Okay. So we're going to BPO with just one ball. We're going to quick transition. We're going to BPO to BP. So the quick transition. So we win the ball. Can we get that level outside, get high, and see if we can get the ball in behind early as possible? Okay? Yeah. Can we play the ball forward further if we can? That's what we want to do. So if we win it, can we play first ball forward? Why do we want to do that? Yeah. We get them. Don't give them a chance to recover. Let's see if we can get in behind them and see. Again, decision making, if it's not on, okay, we might play ball square, keep possession and that. But let's see, most of the time, can we play the ball forward? Get them before they've set up. Okay, I think that's it for me. I've lost it.
Okay, so fellas, any questions for us on the 2 aspects of what we're going to focus on for the next 15 minutes? Warren, 15, next however long we're playing, next 45 minutes. Seriously, any questions? Don't understand, because we're going to go out and we're going to watch that, and we're going to judge our success by how we go on the BPO and also on the transition moment. So we know that you guys have got it locked in. Anything at all? Cool, okay. We're done then.
Okay. All right, so just in terms of pre-match team talks, so considerations that we're possibly thinking about now. What's the window that we've got? So they've been out effectively. That was their Thursday. That was the end of their Thursday night training session. So that was a training game. But on match day, what would that possibly be?
The warm-up.
That's the warm-up, isn't it? So that's what we're going with now. And based on the team model, so we've got the team model as our starting point, and we've already identified the scenarios that we've got today are BPO and then the transition moment from BPO back to BP to win the ball back as quickly as possible. So in terms of your timeline, this is a 10-minute window for your pre-match team talk. So considerations to make are training Tuesday, Thursday. everything that you've worked on that Tuesday and Thursday you want to bring to life, because this isn't the performance phase, this is the game training phase. So that we're not worried necessarily about the overall result, but we're worried about whether they've actually able to apply what we've worked on in the training sessions. We've done defined design, we now come to match day and we want to see it being brought to life. So how do we make those messages clear? So as players, what do they possibly need to see? And bear in mind that all players learn differently. Some may need to see the visual. Alright, so do we have it set up? Some may need written words. And as coaches, we might need written words as well. So when you're actually going through it, there's a whole heap of things, there's a whole raft of things that are going through your mind. But if you've got that there, there's something always to be able to go back to. Same with your visuals as well. But what's the key messages? So that was the pre-match team talk. On the timeline, Sammy, where are we up to on the timeline at the moment?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So that pre-match team talk lasted 3 minutes and 30-something seconds. So that's your 10-minute window. Might you only need that?
Yep.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need the 10 minutes. So now what we need to be thinking about is, alright, I've done the team talk now. Do we just need to fill in the gaps with a little dance or something like that, or do we have something else set up in terms of, do they need to see the physio, so the timelines and the lead up to that as well, etc., etc. So going through that whole timeline of your match day becomes very, very important now. Is there anything that was possibly missing from there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went through my stuff up on the board before
Yeah.
it got lost. And,
Yeah, and then you have to go back to your paper, and then you could probably get lost because there's a heap of stuff that's already down there as well. So again, to have it in there, it makes it possibly a little bit easier as well. Anything from the review group?
I'll toss something in before we do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we set it up, but we didn't then show them. Like the guys picked it. I mean, they said, "Yeah, we want 9 of this," and that's fine. But we could have also showed them what we meant by that on the board, or related it back to their warm-up situation.
What's difficult with the board as well sometimes? Yeah, so possibly numbers can go in there. Also, doing it from that way round, sometimes it may be a consideration. If you're stood there, now you can actually see and you can start to move them a little bit more. Whereas if it's the other way, you start to get confused very, very quickly. So that's another consideration as well. A review group, very quickly, anything?
Maybe more specific tasks and maybe relating to what you've seen maybe for Thursday night. For instance, if you saw an error there or a way they could have improved, maybe specifically identifying a player and indicating Thursday night you did this, perhaps.
So going back to the numbers,
Yes.
we might actually, now we've got these in BPO, there might be specific tasks, player tasks and player cues associated with the main moment and the objective. So again, the value of actually going to the team model and the key principles within the objective, the key principles, and now you can start to filter down team tasks in BPO, player tasks associated, and then the player cues off the back of that as well, and go through that concurrently as well. Alright, so that's the pre-match team talk. Boys, they sound like they're up for it, by the way. Alright, okay, so we're back up, we're going back out again. So get yourselves up, ready to go. You've got 3 minutes, you've got 5 minutes before we go back into the game. Off you go, boys, go get yourselves out. Go. So both teams have done their pre-match talk now based on the 2 training sessions that they've had. This is now game day, first half. In terms of the delivery that we've just seen in the changing rooms, and in particular, and we've got the videos as well, we'll go through those, and so we're reviewing. So if you're not delivering, you're reviewing, and it's probably now, if you're delivering the half-time team talk, you've got a little bit of a leg up in terms of managing the timelines, etc., etc. So the whole raft of things to take into consideration. But what's the main objective? What are the scenarios that you've been given at the start, and are you able to apply those now into that half-time team talk based upon what your observations are here? So in the game training phase, it's very, very easy for coaches to get caught up and it be all about winning, winning at all costs. But you should be judging your success possibly on whether they are now putting into practice what you've done in the training session. That's what you should be judging it on. If you've got your youth development plan and in terms of where you're at in your periodisation, in terms of that FFA curriculum and the building block that you're working in, game training phase, you want to see the sessions that you've delivered Tuesday, Thursday being brought to life here now. Okay, boys, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Off we go, play! Yeah. So just as they're going, the question that's come, gents. So just there's a question come from over here in terms of the timelines now. This is live, so this is match day now. So everything's live. There's a referee out there, and you know what the referees can be like as well, so they'll want to stick to their timeline, so you need to make sure that you stick to yours. So in terms of your planning and preparation, think about that window that you have. We're only going to go 10 minutes again. 10 minutes again for half-time. Structure your half-time team talk with that 10-minute window. So from the moment that I blow the whistle, they've got basically 3 minutes to get the boys into the changing rooms, sat down, ready to go, and then we'll tell you when your 10 minutes starts. So make sure that you know who's delivering. Have you gone through that process? Have you thought about your timeline from start to finish? Can you maximise that 10 minutes to get your message across based upon the observations that you're seeing now on match day? So just as a recap then, the scenario for Team A, which is the orange team, in ball possession. So when they have possession of the ball, they focused on the ability of the team to create an overload in midfield by getting 3 or 4, the 2 centre-backs, to travel into midfield. They've been working on trying to isolate the opposition 9 and 10 and use the free midfield player to gain controlled possession in the middle third. In transition, BP to BPO. They've been working on preventing quick counters. They lose the ball, particularly in the middle third. They've encouraged better balance when in possession by getting 1 centre-back, either the 3 or the 4, and the opposite full-back to narrow off as the ball progresses into midfield. The midfield players need to recognise early when the ball may be lost, and when the ball is lost, they've asked the players to prevent quick forward passes and press the ball aggressively. So Team B, the yellow team, they too have had 2 sessions this week. Their focus and main moments that they've worked on, BPO, when the opposition, when they don't have the ball, they've been trying to win the ball in the opponent's defensive third in central areas. They've asked the 9 to show outside, for the 7 and 11 to show inside. The midfield players try and win the ball in central areas and counter quickly. In transition, BPO to BP, they've been trying to get someone behind the opponent's backline quickly. When they win the ball in the final third, they've asked their team to make sure that if the first pass is played forward, it's secure. If they can't play forward, they're to try and pass to someone who can play forward. And again, this must be secure. If they can't counter, they want to try and retaining the ball in the final third and break the opponent down. So how does that apply to the team model? And in terms of the playing style statement, a proactive brand of football based on effective possession with a cutting edge provided by creative individuals. Defensively, the key components are quick transition and intelligent collective pressing. How does that apply to the team model, your pre-match team talk that you've already delivered, and now the half-time team talk that you will deliver based upon those two scenarios, depending on whether you're Team A or Team B? Half time. 15 minutes starts now.
2-0, doing very well, aren't we? That second goal, fantastic. Okay, listen, the two things that we're trying to work on. The first one, the ball possession one, what was it? Settle on the ball and keep possession. I think it was to get 3 or 4 in the midfield, comfortable in possession, passing or running with the ball. So we had a couple of really good examples of that. You know, the one where I think you intercepted, Nick, you stepped into the midfield, you pinged that ball into the 7. Fantastic. You know, a really good example of you being proactive, taking the ball in the midfield, and then a fantastic ball out to the 7. We then had a very good example only a minute or two later where you did it, didn't you? You know, you came into the midfield with the ball and you pinged the ball into the 9. So 2 really good examples there, guys, in a very short space of time. So well done. So just remember, for us to do that, we need to have the right sort of shape. So Tom Milicevic, I know you're on the left back. Can we get you higher? Particularly when Ross is the 4, is that right? Nick's the 4? Who's the 4? At times, Tom, at times you're in here, and so what's happening is that their number 9 or number 7 is just sitting in there, he's marking both of you. Okay. So if you can get higher, he's now got a choice. Do I go to the ball or do I go with you? If he goes to the ball, well this ball here might be on, or it might be on into Anthony and then out. Or if he decides to go with you, Tom, that's opening up space for Ross. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yeah.
So can we get you higher at 5 when we're in possession? Okay? That then will free up the space, because this guy has to decide if he's going there or if he's coming here.
What if the 9 comes across it? And he's not play me on the way?
Well, if the 9, so you're saying if the 9 comes in here, so that's the 10, that's the 9. Okay. Well, I still want you high, because now we might be able to play it into Anthony, and Anthony might be able to play that in behind the 7, into you. Does that make sense? Yes. Alright. So, a couple of very good examples of that from Ross and Nick. Excellent. Really good. So can we carry on with that? To do that, we make sure we got our shape. You know, we've got the 3 and 4 split, 2 and 5 high, looking to take your first touch forward, looking to run in the midfield. Okay, so the second one, which I rubbed off, sorry Lee, where are you? I rubbed it off, sorry.
Yeah, the 2 and 5.
Yeah. Alright, so, often, we're doing well, we're getting out down the right. So R2, we decided that we're going right. R2's going forward with the ball. What do we need to do now? Sorry, that's the ball, isn't it? What do we need to do now? 3, 4 and 5 and 6, what do we need to do? Let's just put in some of their players. So, this is, who's R2? He's gone forward with the ball. What do we need to be doing now? You 3. This is how we often are. So can we get compact with each other? You know, get compact, narrow. Always think the worst, guys. You know, think the worst. If we lose the ball here, are we set to defend or are we open? You know, are we set to defend or are we open? So we've got out. Can we, us 3 now, get compact, get somebody on the 9, so that, you know, sometimes he's just drifting away. So if we lose it in here, this guy might play him straight away and he can turn and run at us. So can we get somebody tight on the 9? Can we be compact? So we're going out this side. Obviously we need to be on this side of the pitch there, right? But can we be compact? So we're not vulnerable to counter-attacks. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just to elaborate a little bit more, it's been done most of the time what we've asked of you. Sorry, I can't see what we're asking. It's been happening, but let's just get a little bit tighter on that difference between ball position and the BPO. We just make it happen a little bit quicker, then we can get our ball back, and then we can start working again on that first point and getting the 3 and 4 forward. Keep trying to get creative through the midfield, through 3 and 4, a little bit more movement. But in general play, it's been happening, and as you can see, we're up 2-0, so it's been rewarded. Good first half. Keep it going.
Let's keep it going, guys. So again, the main things we're after, because that's what we've been working on. We're looking at you two getting the ball in the middle of the park with the ball at your feet. To do that, 2 and 5 have to get high and wide. 8 and 10 high. 6 a bit higher too, Anthony. Okay? So you might be able to play it into you and then bounce it behind the winger like Tom was saying for the fullback maybe. Tom or the other two to get on the ball. So that's the thing we need to do in possession. Out of possession, we need to be very aware of what can go, what can happen if we lose possession. Always think the worst, always be pessimists. Finn, you've got to start talking at the back, you know. We've got our 2 going forward with the ball. You can see everything, so you should be saying maybe to the 5, you know, Tom, tuck in. What happens if we lose it? Anthony, where are you? Are we set defensively? So you and you two. A lot of talking at the back, so we're set. Does that make sense, guys? All right, have a drink. Let's go. We've got plenty of time, guys. Do another.
Any injuries? You're getting water in here? Excellent. So where's my 9s? 9. So 9, where are the wingers? 7 and 11. Can you go, just sit over here so I can talk here. And let's have the 6, 8, 10 over there. Shuffle around. Okay, going into that half we had 2 tasks. The first one was winning the ball in the attacking third. Now, 9s, where are you? Can you, instead of a straight run, get a curve run? So there's their 2 centre-backs. A curve run that way. Remember, your aim is not to win the ball back. It's to force them to play it inside. And hopefully this guy will play it to the wide back, or play it down there, and we win it back. Right? It's very difficult for you to win it back just with a straight run. This is 2-on-1. Does that make sense? So if you can make a curve run, stopping them from switching it to the other fullback, and either forcing them to play it forward or forcing them to play it to the wide back, you've done your job. See? Wingers. Remember, your aim is to force them inside. So lay off the wide fullback, take positions like that, fractionally on the outside of this fullback, and hopefully they'll play it inside, and you've done your job. When you're out here, don't let this guy get in an advanced position of you, because if he gets it, he's going to draw out one of our fullbacks. So drop back down here if you need to. So I want you to keep an eye on your wide fullback and be inside this guy. If he plays it there, you can force this guy inside, and hopefully he'll play it inside. Your name?
Sam.
Sam. So Sam, there was one instance where it came to this guy out here, and your run was more to him. Just remember what we want to achieve. Remember what we worked on this week. You want a curve run like that.
Yep.
To get him to play it inside. Make sense?
Yep.
Similarly with you, Peppy.
Yep.
Read what's happening, what we're working on. You're also going to attack. Just switch on what your defensive role is. We want him to force it there, and you either there so that it goes in there, or you level with that guy so if it goes to the ball goes to him, you can do a curve run and force him inside. 6, 8, 10. Where are they? Okay, it's very much meant for me, and if we're trying to win it like this, you're going to be up the recipient of the ball. Does that make sense? Be on their back, And that way, that recipient can't turn with the ball in the midfield. He will have to play it backwards or sideways, but he won't be able to attack. As soon as he turns, you're there to win it back. So be really tight as he receives the ball. So we clear about that bit? Okay, when we win it back, so we've won it back, our wingers, again Sam, I think at times you're inside 4 metres when we win it back, and you think you're wide, but I reckon you've got another 3 or 4 metres to the touchline. I haven't seen you completely on your side, but often you think you're wide and high up, and you actually got another 3 or 4 metres. So see if you can be wide. Now, the second thing is, know what your fullback's doing. If your fullback comes out tight, where's the space then, Sam, for you to receive the ball? Yeah. Got that? So know what the fullback's doing. Pepe, start hard and wide. If he comes out tight, then you've got the space inside. Make sense? Yeah. If you stretch him also, what does it do? It gives more room for our 9 and 10 to interplay. So just remember that 3 or 4 metres you can get a little bit wider. Now remember the second thing we wanted to do when we won it back, if we can't go forward, we want to keep possession. So if the safe pass isn't on through there or to the winger's feet. So if the fullback's inside, you go to the winger's feet. If the fullback's tight, you go inside them. So 6, 8, 10, if that pass isn't on, just keep possession. Play it to someone who's facing forward and they can feed the winger in. Okay, so we've worked so hard to win it back in that attacking third. Let's value the possession when we win it back, eh? We worked really hard to win it back. Martin?
Yeah, sure. Got just a couple of points, guys, on when we actually do win it back in that final third there. I've noticed that their number 2 tends to sit quite high, so a good opportunity for one of our 9s to make a run in behind here, or even drag a defender across and our 10 can get in there. So we're looking for a secure pass in behind the back line, okay? And the number 5 for them also, he tends to stay quite narrow. So perhaps on the other side, who's on our 11? On that side there, we have to look for a ball out wide to get around them, okay? So the number 2 pushes up a fair bit, and the number 5 is quite narrow. Okay?
Well done, guys. Good path. You worked on what we wanted to do during the week. Really well done.
Let's go, guys.
Let's go, eh? Remember what we want to work on. Let's go.
Okay, so just, this is still running now. So just in terms of when that whistle goes at half time, that window that you have from the moment you get inside to being able to deliver your message to getting back outside. Kick-off is now on 31. So we've sent them out on 25. The reason I sent them out on 25 is because I just want to review this together in terms of your timelines, etc. There's no reason as to why you possibly wouldn't send them out on 25. What might be a consideration to do that?
It was really cold and you want to warm up.
Get warm up. Yeah. So they might be out with either the assistant or your another coach that's out there, being able to get them ready, G'd up, ready to go, get the Dyflex going, warmed up, some ball work, etc., and bang, ready to go into the second half. So there might be that in there. I think what we're looking to do is basically, if you've got that window, have we really thought about not just about the message that we've delivered, but exactly minute by minute, from the moment we come in to the moment we go out. Yes, you want to get the message across, but it's everything taken into consideration. So some of the considerations to make there would possibly be team talk, good, clear, can understand, the players can understand. I do it all the time. What's something that you said to them after everything you explained? Right. Or okay. Do you understand? You said basically, do you understand? And what does a player do automatically? Yeah. So, and it's something that I use all the time. So, do you understand that? I still do it to Angelo now, with everything. Do you understand? Or do you know what I mean? And I'll say, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes in terms of that Q&A, especially because we're in the game training phase, performance phase they might know it's spot on, no problem at all. In game training phase, there's an opportunity possibly to draw that out of them as well in terms of your Q&A. So I've just asked you to do something, show me that you understand it. So no difference what you would possibly do in a training session when you go through the demo and then recreate it. Now I'll show you it, show me that you understand it, bam, we go live. Same thing can apply here. So you could possibly be asking them, right, this is, I've asked you to do something, what are you going to do? And they might come up and show you on the board, or they might just explain it to you and then you move it around, whatever. But in terms of the main focus was on who? 7 and 11? And 6, 8 and 10. What's another trap we might fall into? Who else have we got to consider? 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, the rest of the team. But they ran the training session on Tuesday and Thursday as well, wasn't they? So they switch off, they don't understand. So now you've only got 5 players that you've affected in your team talk. Possibly you're only going out with half your squad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So just in terms of the team task this week on Tuesday and Thursday was in BPO, BPO to BP. These are the main focus, 7 and 11, 6, 8 and 10, but what might you have to consider for that to become successful as well? So there's the team task, now we've got the player task and the player cues, everyone's involved, and it's just that bullseye effect. And going through that 5 W's approach again, making sure who is the problem, what the problem is, where it was, etc., etc., etc. Going through that process and drawing it out and getting it into that window. But very clear, precise with exactly what you wanted, but that's the window that you want maximum opportunity to affect it to go out in the second half and get what you possibly didn't in the first half. And whether you're in the performance phase or the game training phase, that's something to consider. Right, 2 minutes to go through that. We're going to see if they actually take that on board now outside. Take yourselves outside. Well done. Cheers, Matthew. Brilliant. Cheers, mate. Okay, so we've now, whilst we let them play, yes, you do want to see it being brought to life, but how can you really affect it when you haven't really had those 2 training sessions? So there's that consideration there. And it's more about the key messages that we're trying to deliver in the pre-match team talk and the half-time team talk. How you structure it, how you set it up, what are your timelines to ensure that you make or take the maximum opportunity to get your message across. So just some observations from my end in terms of we've blown the half-time whistle and that window of 15 minutes. So that 15 minutes starts effectively as soon as the whistle goes. So referees are walking into the changing room, players are walking into the changing room, and the observations that we've seen from the side. Both Pat and myself, just whilst the first half was going on, we said we'll make sure that we clarify that it is 15 minutes whistle to whistle. So we need to make sure that our timelines are nice and tight and precise. There's no reason as to possibly why you would have to go inside, so that's a consideration. Head coaches, and this is something that we do within our own environment, is that you've got your head coach and assistant might let the players go into the changing room. They might want to discuss it amongst themselves. That then gives you an opportunity and a window there to then synthesize your information or your notes that you've got. Is it you just taking the notes on that first half, or is your assistant taking notes as well? And therefore, if you're both taking notes, when you go into the changing room at half-time, who's delivering which notes? So there's possibly an opportunity where they're walking into the changing room, you've now got an opportunity to synthesize that information between head coach and assistant coach, get your messages clear, this is what we're going to start with, this is what we're going to finish with, that's our team talk taken care of. So that's just a consideration. And again, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You may have other ways of doing it yourself. But what we saw there is that we walked straight into the change room, players sat down. Have they got an opportunity to go and get a drink? Have they got an opportunity to sit themselves down and get themselves organised? Or are still players in the toilet when you're starting your half-time team talk, etc., etc.? And some of the observations, and they're on the camera from our half-time team talk, is just that methodical approach of building up. So you've got two main moments in particular that you're working with. In our group, we had BPO to BP. But the team talk was structured in a way by which the focus was on only 5 players. So you're missing those other players as well. So going back to your team model, and in terms of the 2 training sessions that you've delivered on the Tuesday, Thursday, and in that team model with those training sessions, you've got your session objective, which will then have a team task. So the team task for Tuesday night and Thursday night is whatever it may be. From there, we've now got our player tasks that are associated with that, and then the player cues. So how do we draw that all together so when it comes to match day, it's more seamless and we actually see it being done on the pitch? In terms of the delivery as well, do we start with players, go back to players? So there's many things to consider. So this is just an opportunity not to pull apart coaches' team talks, but it's to get together and share ideas. And as I said at the start, and I've just said before, there is no right or wrong way of doing it. It's entirely up to you. But have you taken certain things into consideration? So like I say, you're maximising that opportunity of your half-time. Time!
Opportunity to with two teams, Team A, Team B, and then two groups within each of those teams, and you've managed to, one's delivered the pre-match team talk, one's delivered the half-time speech in both Team A and Team B. Some observations there, and obviously you've been making notes throughout the whole of the workshop. So I guess this is more of an opportunity, not for me to say what goes, etc., but what observations you might have found yourself from the whole process. So feel free just to throw anything out there. I know that Pat's got a few things that he wants to go through, but is there anybody else that wants to share anything just in terms of the process, or do they do something different in terms of your pre-match team talk? Anything at all? Don't be shy. Yep.
For example, the 7 and 11 were trying to prevent our 2 and 5 get the ball, so our 3 and 4 got more regularly out in the second half. So we're basically a lot more successful in the second half, getting the 3 and 4 involved.
So just in terms of having a pre-match team talk and a half-time team talk, we're saying that we've got success there, and you did get success. How? Because they allowed us to. Yeah. So that. Yeah. So even though we're in the game training phase, and you've worked specifically at working with your team and getting them into certain positions to be able to do certain things within that team task, player task, through the observations of what the other team are doing, might provide you with an opportunity to get more success in this, either the same areas or different areas. So what you're doing now is you're actually applying what you've worked on in the Tuesday and the Thursday, and then taking it to the next level by identifying a weakness in the opposition and trying to capitalise on that. And is there anything wrong with that? Not at all. And the message is the same, and it's one of the questions that we had from our group as well, is that would that just be the focus, or if you see something else, would you address it? There might be an opportunity to address it, but it's not going to be the overarching message for the actual game that you're for today, because it's mainly in that game training phase, like we say, from 13 to 17, depending on where you're at, either in year 1 of game training or year 4. And in terms of your youth development plan and your periodisation that you have set up, that's going to be your focus, and then to see whether that's brought to life. And I think, again, one of the biggest things that we're seeing in our own space here in the ACT is that there's still the confusion between the skill acquisition phase and the game training phase. And the skill acquisition phase being from 9 to 13, and the focus should be on the functional game skill and the specific aspect. But coaches still get caught up in wanting to win, but that's not the main focus. The main focus, are we seeing the repetition of the functional game skills that you've worked on in the skill acquisition phase during that week, whether you work on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 sessions or 2 sessions, either a Tuesday or Thursday. That should be what you're judging your success on. Or are you seeing what are you seeing in your games, basically what you've worked on in your training sessions? It doesn't matter what building block you're in. But for tonight, we're in the game training. Those are the 2 sessions that you've worked on. You've had 2 scenarios, and I think they're good scenarios, good setups. It's not random, but what it allows you to do, it allows you to go into the team model. It allows you to have a look at the main moment, and then from that, again, synthesize that information and make the message clear. One of the things that both Pat and myself discussed is in relation to the actual the setup and the organisation, is what happens if you've done your 2 training sessions on the Tuesday and the Thursday, and they go out in the game and it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. Do we just throw our hands up in the air and go, I'm the worst coach ever? Or is there an opportunity to revisit it? And then where would you revisit that? So that's where we're saying that's the value of your youth development plan and your periodisation of where you actually fit that in. And I guess one of the biggest things that we're working with at the moment is, just because you might be working on a different main moment or a different topic,
would there still be the opportunity in the next training session on the Tuesday to just revisit possibly what the messages were from the week before? So when you go into your session planning, you might just have a little window there just to address, this is what we worked on last week, Tuesday, Thursday. When we played the game on Saturday, on Sunday, whenever it may be, it didn't necessarily come to life. But not to worry about that. We will revisit at a later date, or you might actually touch on it and put on a small session to relate to that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's tweaking it. But you've already got a plan there, and all you're doing is you're tweaking that plan and putting it in. Do you want to add to that? No, I think that
one of the weaknesses that's been identified in terms of, and it's not really a weakness because we've got a 4-year window to provide players with the entire suite of information that we have for them, but it's being able to address in the moment what some of the things that might have gone wrong the week before. So being able to influence a little bit earlier, because you know you've still got a game the next week. So the key is, well, you've got your curriculum-based periodized plan. So already you've got your plan for next week. But if you're smart, you can somehow, and exactly what Warren's saying, you can still address that, what went wrong in the week before, but still using elements of the planning that you've already got in place. It's just a matter of where and when you might mention that. That's all. So you're not totally going away from your plan, but you're not totally not addressing what the problems were. To find balance, and it's just picking and choosing. The other thing that might happen, you might have identified a problem in the game, but you know what? That's going to come up in your plan anyway. So 3 or 4 or 6 weeks down the line or in the next cycle, it's going to come up again anyhow. So you're going to get a chance to readdress it. So and sometimes you just got to be patient and knowing, well, it's in my plan. It's just 6 weeks away. But you also, I think sometimes we forget, is because we're planning in 6-week cycles, there's no problem with you looking 6 weeks ahead and saying, I'm actually going to tweak this 6-week cycle. So I know we've got 8 6-week cycles in a year. Sometimes it's not working out, and you might need to go and revisit what those 6-week cycles look like and twist them around to get something out of it that you want to get out of it. Does that make sense? So don't get caught up in this annual plan and not being able to change anything. You can change it. Just have a reason for changing it, I think, is probably the point.
The training game at the end, you know, for instance, we're talking about 3 and 4. You can hear me, can't you?
the camera card.
The training game at the end, like we're talking about getting 3 and 4 on the ball in the midfield. So we've done that tonight. Next Tuesday we're working on something else. But in our training game next Tuesday night, if 3 and 4 have got loads of space in front of them in the game at the end, and they don't recognise that, we can just say to them, what did we work on last week, guys? You know, just carry the ball in the midfield, got space in front, carry the ball in the midfield. You might be able to get a 2-on-1 in midfield if 3 and 4 can carry it in the midfield when you've got space in front of you. So what you're saying is you can do that in the next session, even though that's not the theme, just in the game at the end, if that opportunity presents itself.
The other one was that Pat mentioned about if the 3 and 4 don't get forward and we pass our way out through the 2 and 5, that's a solution as well.
So our players found a different solution.
That's the other question that we brought up, and I don't know what the answer is. In the first half, the training for the week was trying to get 3 and 4 to create an overload in midfield, which is structured build-up. But our players found a different solution and were able to get out in wide areas. So at half-time, how do you address that? What do you do? And I don't know if anyone has an answer. Do you need to reinforce the whole concept of 3 and 4? Or do you say, well, the game is allowing you to get out in a different way, so keep doing that? So and you might have a question for it, I don't know, an answer for it, I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the players actually found a different solution.
I would say brilliant, just use both. Now we've got an option of having 2 ways of getting there. And you found it yourself, so maybe they're self-learning or self-teaching themselves. From my point of view, I'd say it's brilliant.
Yeah. So maybe you recognise it. Listen, we recognise this is what we were trying to do, but you guys have actually said, well, we can't do it, but we can do that instead. No worries.
Don't forget we've got this backup plan as well.
But I think that goes a long way to demonstrating the value of the process that we've been through in terms of the workshops and the environment that you create. So as coaches, if we're clever coaches, if we're able to create that environment where they're able to come up with their own solutions, you've got your session plan and you've got what your team task, player tasks and player cues might be. But if they're able to come up with their own solutions, that's what we want to create. And if they can do that in that environment, like you say, absolutely fantastic. So if this happens, then we've got a plan because we've worked on it. But you've just seen that you can still do this. We're not going to stop you from doing it if you're getting success. We're not going to restrict them from doing that. They've come up with a solution, no problems at all. And that's one of the things that we mentioned just in our half-time team talk as well, is that sometimes we're very quick to sort of say to players, this is what I want you to do, this is where I want you to go. Do you understand what I'm saying? And all of them turn around and say what? Yes. Yeah, I understand. Sometimes that's an opportunity for you to do the Q&A with them as well. So show me that you understand. Or how do you frame that half-time team talk? You know what you've got in your locker. You know that what you want to deliver because you've synthesized that information between your head coach and your assistant. But there might be a window in there where you actually just say to your players, how do you think the game went? I know that Ryan, with the senior NCC boys, that's the first thing that he'll say. What are your thoughts on how the game went? And that's one of the things that we find the biggest value in actually staying out, because they go in and they're revved up, whether they're winning, losing or drawing, and they discuss the game. We're not doing this, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. And they'll go through it themselves. So sometimes we don't even need to be there. You could just leave them to come up with the solutions themselves. But you address those, and then if you go through it, you can then possibly say to the players exactly what we've got here. That's exactly what we've come up as well. This is what we're going to do in the second half to capitalise on whatever it may be. So are we able, and that's why, especially in the game training phase, there's fantastic value in actually basing your success on the training sessions that you've actually delivered throughout the week. And like I say, the parameters of the team model and the parameters of the youth development plan and periodisation, you're not restricted. I think if you've got a plan in the first place, it's going to help you out. And all you're doing is either taking away or adding something in, but you're not starting from scratch. And that's the whole point of doing it in that fashion. So you go through your plan, prepare, conduct, and then you evaluate. And then through that evaluation, you're saying whether it's training or the game, this is what we need to do to improve it. And this is what we expect. We're having countless conversations throughout the year because we're not convinced that our team, what we expect from a player in year one of game training, by the time they get to year 4, that we've got all the answers at the moment. And every game and every training session we have through that evaluation, there's new things starting to pop up. Well, maybe we want them to have a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that. So you're always tweaking it and it's always evolving. But the fact that you've actually got something in place to start with, that's what's going to help us out. And like I say, in terms of the NPL process that we've just been through, that's the main reason that we're asking. It's not just myself as a technical director asking for your youth development plan. It's asking, the FFA are asking of that as well. Because the great thing that we're starting to see now, the terminology that's coming out, we're all on the same page. If we talk about a 2, 3, 4 or 5, every coach here knows what the 2, 3, 4 or 5 is. They know their roles, possibly the responsibilities. Some may have other opinions on that, but we're all speaking in the same language. Now, if that's just happening in this space, and it's happening around the rest of the country, by the time these players go on to the next level and they come here to the AIS, to possibly into the AIS or go into National Youth League, we're just building those players up and putting them in a position by which they're able to go on to that next level, because everyone's speaking the same language and working towards something. And like I say, for me, that's probably the biggest plus as well. And through these workshops that we've had, 4 or 5 workshops that we've delivered this year and the 4 or 5 that we delivered last year, it is similar coaches that are coming out to it, but I think it's because you do get value out of it as well, and the fact that now we get them up onto YouTube as well. There's always something to go back to. The coaching process, there's always a resource there to go back to. The FFA curriculum, there's something there as a starting point, a foundation, and that's the sort of revolution within, if you will. But in terms of doing these, I love him. I love delivering them. I love being a part of it, and you always learn something new. In terms of it could be the smallest thing, but you'll take something away, and I hope that you do too. Do you want to add anything else to that? Has anybody else got anything to add from tonight or any of the other workshops that we delivered? Yes.
I've got a question. I'll take the angle. No question is a stupid question, so I might make a fool of myself. But so we've concentrated on something here tonight, which is the basic thing that we did. But there's no talk of any of the other players on the pitch. So these are good players, right?
But if you're coaching a women's team of my quality, what I've had, or some of you younger guys, right? If I don't talk to the 7, 9, and 11, they're not going to do anything. So is this the approach you guys take with your teams? I mean, you're lucky enough that these boys can move the way they do and they have the creativity and the skill.
It's a perfect question. It's not a stupid
Yeah.
question. Yeah. It's something that we addressed in our changing room, and I think I touched on it before. Plaffy delivered the halftime team talk, and he worked specifically. He wanted to get the message across to 7 and 11, 6, 8, and 10. But we've missed the other players out, and you need to include everyone. So that's where we're saying when we look at that team model, there's a team task, so there's an overarching task for all of the team. And then the key is, as a coach, how do you get that message across where, yes, the focus might be on certain players, but what are the roles and responsibilities of the players around them in order for that to happen? And that evolves as well. So like I say, so there, again, going back to the coaching process and having that as your starting point and your template, if you look at that, there's my team, there's basically the main moment that I'm going to work in. And these are the key principles of that main moment. And that's possibly where I was going to start with. And off the back of that now, I've got my player tasks, team tasks, and player cues. So if I want, as the example that we used in the halftime team talk that Plathy delivered, if I want my 7 and 11 to do something, what's the mechanism for the other players around the 7 and 11 for that to happen? And for that to happen successfully more often. And that's the art going through the plan. So you're going through the planning of your session as well. So you prepare, conduct, evaluate. And then when you evaluate it, did it happen? All right, possibly it didn't happen this time round. Can I revisit it? Yes, it is, what we've just been through before. And the next time when you might actually deliver the same session, but you might deliver it in a slightly different way based upon your observations from the session that you delivered the last time round. But I think that's the biggest thing, is being able to include everyone all the time. Because there's 11 players on the park. So even though the focus might just be on 7 and 11 or 6, 8 and 10, the other players need to be involved. And that's what we said in our halftime team talk there. We've addressed 5 players. So it's just 5 players possibly running out onto the pitch.
I know the one big thing was Rod addressing the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's behaviour changed massively in the second half. And now, so one of the most difficult guys to address is the goalkeeper, but Rod at the end of his conversation addressed the goalkeeper, and that was one of the biggest changes in behaviour that we saw. That also impacted other players around him because he started giving more information, and he also connected with the team, so his performance went up as well. So I think you're right. You've got to involve everybody. And it's those mechanisms, because ultimately, from the time that you step into a C license, we're talking 11v11. We're not talking about 7 players or 9 players anymore. It's 11v11, and I think the global view is important to always be considering all those players. So it's a really good question, actually.
And I think that goes back to your training sessions as well. So if you've got 16, 18 players, or you've only got 12 players, how do you manage that session so that everyone's involved? And just going on to the goalkeeper, the biggest advantage of the goalkeeper is that he sees the whole picture the whole time. So in the skill acquisition phase, you've got the 4 functional game skills plus 2, and the plus 2 are what? Positioning and communication. So if the focus is on 7 and 11 by the time we get into the game training phase, positioning and communication should be intrinsic anyway, because we've created environments by which, yes, we're working on the functional game skill with a specific aspect, but positioning and communication is always involved. So the players are being encouraged to give information. If he receives it or she receives it, can they face forward? But it's not you as the coach necessarily giving that information. It might be one of their teammates now telling them. And can you include that into that as well? So that's what we're saying. So by the time they come out the skill acquisition phase and into the game training phase, they've got those functional game skills. They know what to do with the ball. Now it's possibly when and where do they actually do it with the ball. And that's another argument that debate that we have as well, is that is a player who takes too many touches in the skill under 12s or under 11s. He's a great player, but he's greedy. I would encourage them to be greedy, because let them do it. No fear of failure, because you're going to actually work on that when you get into the game training phase. So if you've got a player that won't pass the ball, you can work on that in year 1 through to year 4 of game training. And again, one of the conversations we was having as we was walking out, there's 8 years of development effectively there. So you've got the 4 years in the skill acquisition phase, 4 years in the game training phase. By the time they come out at the end of the game training phase, polish them off, polish diamond, give them to the head coach. Head coach of a club's rubbing his hands together because he doesn't have to go out and buy someone for $500 a week because he's got a production line of players coming through his own youth development program, and he's thinking, hang on a minute, this is quality. And for the very, very best ones, they're coming into here, into this environment, into the AIS, into the national teams. And that's what we're trying to do. And the great thing is it's always about the player, the best interest of the player. And some will go on to the heights and some won't. But you'd like to think the experience that they have because of the environment that you're able to create is one they'll always cherish. And that's why we love the game and that's why we're involved. I'm getting all philosophical now, so I'll shut up.
One other thing, though, like what George is saying, is you also want to have an environment where if I'm the number 3, and the coach is working with the 7, 9 and 11, I should be paying attention too, because at some point I may play there. And we saw tonight, I mean, I don't know Tom Milicevic, I've never seen him play left back before. It looks like he's played there tonight, and he, to my mind, defensively, he didn't have a clue tonight. You know, so maybe when that's a signal to us that making sure that the players are knowing what all the positions involve, so that if he is put there like tonight, he's maybe got a better idea defensively. I'm not having a go at him, but he looked like he was lost defensively. I don't know if he's played there much. You know, having an environment where if the coach is working with certain players, everybody's listening and everybody's buying into it in case they have to play there at some point.
And I fully agree with that as well. And again, going back to the skill acquisition phase, I guess that's why it's not number specific. And when still the biggest thing that comes out, if you was to ask someone out within the football family, not just here in the ACT, whenever you say, what's the national curriculum about? What's the first thing everyone keeps saying? 1, 4, 3, 3. No, that's not what it's about. I think it's more than that. That's just the formation that we see as the best development tool to progress players. But in the skill acquisition phase, that's where you're encouraging players to play in all positions, to get used to playing in different areas, but not numbering them off, getting them used to that from an early age. And going to the comment with Tom, I think you're absolutely spot on. And that's where we're starting to see not necessarily the older players, but the younger ones coming through. That's why we're quite excited with the under 10s, 11s and 12s now across the board in the NPL and in the teams that Capital Football have as well. Because they've gone through that full skill acquisition phase, we're starting to see some real quality coming out. And that's across the NPL, not just in our environment. And that's a testament and a credit to all of the clubs and the coaches, that the majority of the coaches that are working within those clubs that have been able to create that environment and getting out there. And that's where we want to try to spread that message and get that message out far and wide. And we're slowly starting to get there, and it's you guys that are responsible for that and that are working hard in those spaces. And make no mistake, we understand that you are volunteers as well when you give up your time. And again, that's a credit to yourselves as individuals. Well, I think that's enough. It's not as cold as it has been for the other workshops, which is nice, but you bet, yeah. Can't feel anything. But thank you very much for again, which I hope you find a worthwhile workshop. I just find it great value because we get to bounce ideas off each other, and I just wish that we could do it more often. But obviously time constraints, etc., stops us from doing that. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. I know there's a few of you here that have either got to be just signed off on your C licence, some that have done it and going on to the B licence, which is great. And then it's great to see obviously some of the technical directors here this evening as well, and obviously seen some great work. And there's going to be some interesting meetings tomorrow with regards to the NPL committee and the boards in terms of the licence applications and which licence will be granted. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. If you need anything, you know where the details are. Once we've clipped all of the movie together, it will be available to you via the link and up on YouTube. So you've always got something to go back to as well. And like I say, if you've got any questions, queries, and no question's a stupid question, feel free to pick up the phone. Pat's always available.
Well done, guys. Cheers.